Hey friends, it's September over at the Acreage Garden, and that means it's time for a garden tour. So it's part tour, part harvest video. Come with me and I'll show you everything there is to see. For those of you who are new to the channel, I'm Kristen with Shifting Roots, and I garden in Zone 3 on the Canadian prairies near Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. So that means that we have a very short growing season and cold temperatures. Now this year was a lot hotter than normal, and some years it's even been the end of the season by now. We'll have an earlier frost and that's it. But this year has been warmer. I'm currently filming this September 12th, and there is not really any sign of a frost. Maybe next Friday, but even then it's still plus 2 degrees Celsius. So there's a chance that it won't frost at all and we'll still be fine. So first up, we're gonna harvest those peppers. Now I could wait to harvest the peppers, but the thing is, with small kids and busy lives, sometimes if you wait until the night before the frost comes, you've got like a 6-hour job on your hand to try to harvest every single thing that's going to be destroyed. So I like to just do it in little pieces, even if that means I'm sometimes harvesting things a bit earlier than is maybe ideal. So as you can see, the tomatoes are gone. We've already harvested a lot of them. The hermit is just taking out the vines. We've been slowly working away at that. We also harvested our peppers a long time ago, and even though I thought we got so many Hungarian heart peppers, a lot of the smaller peppers have really grown. Maybe some new ones have sprouted, but there's a lot to harvest here. These purple bell peppers have been doing quite well for us this year. I have not had such nice ones, and we've gotten really a lot from our plants. They've been very productive. This red bell pepper isn't too shabby either. Usually to get a pepper to be red like this on the vine doesn't always happen in this zone and growing region. Take a look over here at these Carmen peppers. Look how big these have gotten. So just for a little comparison, it's the size of my head. I mean, I've always dreamed of growing peppers like this, but it's just never worked out for me. But really, having a greenhouse in Zone 3, such a game changer. I mean, I suppose it'd be a game changer in any zone, but just really opens a world up here. Our cayenne peppers have also been quite productive. You can see got a nice red one here, and even though not all the ones on the plant are red, there's still quite a few that are on there, and these will all ripen indoors. I found another one almost the size of my head. A little smaller, but pretty close. So check out our first pail. We're only halfway down the line of peppers and we've already got one of these full pails. These sakura plants that Mike is currently taking down, we probably could have left up a little bit longer, but we just didn't know, and there was a risk of frost earlier. See all of those that we still could have harvested? But we have so many tomatoes, I think we're kind of done for the year. The cucumber vines were not super successful this year. Right now they're getting that mildew on them. And at that point, like, there's really nothing you can do. It's too late in the season for me to save them really. But we're still getting the odd nice cucumber. So I think I'll pick what's there, but I also think we're just gonna pick the vines. Yeah. These are getting kind of weird shapen. As usual, we've got a couple helpers. We have my niece, and then my son is in the back there. And she's been having a great time picking these peppers. So we were able to get 3.5 buckets of peppers, probably about the same as we got from our first harvest. Hermit's basically got all of the tomatoes down, except for this one. We're just curious how much will ripen if we would have left it the whole time. And now he's working on the cucumbers, and then this greenhouse will be cleaned out pretty quick. Next year, the plan is for the greenhouse that we're standing in right now to be for my flowers. So I would like to grow spring flowers. I'd really like to have something by Mother's Day or as soon after as possible. And so that's what this greenhouse is going to be for, to try and meet that goal. Then we're going to build a second greenhouse, and that one will be where the tomatoes and the cucumbers and the peppers are next year. This pumpkin vine is just so magical. I have 2 different varieties of pumpkins on either side. I don't remember exactly what they are, sorry. It went all the way around, and then, oh, I just love this one here, such a cool shade. This vine that's trailing down is a mashed potato squash. So the idea is that it tastes like mashed potatoes when you make it. As much as we love to grow squash and pumpkins, we're really not the best at eating them. So I'm hoping that if this mashed potato squash really does taste like mashed potatoes, this will be a really good option for our family. Over in the back here, we have this Swiss chard that seems to have really perked up since it was burnt out with all the extreme heat. This I will keep going as long as possible. It will survive a light frost, so I'll keep it until it dies, basically. I've been really impressed with this purple kale. With all the heat we had, you think it would have bolted, and it hasn't. It's just a bit small because I planted it in a closer planting. So if you want baby kale, plant 4 kales in 1 foot, and then you'll get small kale leaves like this. Now, before I show you the back 40 where all of my flowers are, we have a really exciting development over this way. So this might not look like much, just a bunch of little sticks in the ground, but say hello to our future hardy fruit orchard. Often people think that if you live in a cold climate like zone 3, that an orchard is not available to you, but that's not true. There's actually a ton of hardy varieties of stuff that you can plant. Basically, the only thing we can't grow here are bananas, although I have seen someone do it with a greenhouse and like insulation and stuff, and a peach tree. And I think other than that, you can find some sort of hardy version of most of the common fruits that you'd be interested in growing. Now, some things like the citrus fruits, say like lemons and oranges, limes, those you have to do indoors, and you can maybe take outside for the summer and then keep bringing them back in. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me show you what we're all planting. Over here is our apricot tree. Now this one needs a pollinator, so we have left space to plant another apricot tree later. We were just able to get a deal, so we just wanted to grab it. And this one is, it's a Debbie's Gold. Over here are 3 cherries. They don't look like much, but they're part of the Romance series. So I believe that we got a Romeo, a Juliet, and a Cupid. Now, I think most of these trees are self-pollinating. You don't actually need 3 of them, but I really like sour cherries, and I'll probably order 3 more at some point. This row over here are apple trees. These will actually be like full-size grocery store apples. This first tree here is what's called a combination tree. So it has 4 different cultivars on one tree. We have a Honeycrisp, a Hayer number 12, an Odyssey, and a Hardy Mac. These are such a great option if you don't have a lot of space and you'd like to have a bunch of different apples to you. So I'm really excited about this one. Next is the Patterson tree. This is a new cultivar by the U of S. It's super productive and apparently grows quite fast, so I'm very excited for that one. This is our Goodland, and small tree, but mighty. We'll get delicious apples. And then our last one, this one is, I felt, really struggled the most the entire season. Oh yes, and a Honeycrisp. Besides our orchard, we also have some raspberries and chokecherries that came with the place. We just bought 3 grapevines, which we have just plopped in the ground basically, and then we'll plant those where we want them in the spring. We have some gooseberries that came with the place, some haskaps, and then we also grabbed 2 goji berry trees. And then just the way that we want them in the garden, I think we will get 1 more goji berry tree in the spring. So we took advantage of a fall sale at one of the local greenhouses. Everything was 50% off. Now, of course, because it's 50% off, it might not look the greatest, and there's always that risk that it won't make it. But for us, we were willing to take the risk if it meant that the things would take and we could get those plants for a lot more reasonable price. So now we're gonna head on over to what I've always called the back 40. It's always the last thing to get watered, a little bit neglected this year, but you know what? With the cooler temperatures in September and we finally got some rain, it has really come into its own. So why don't we start our tour over at the back end, and then we'll save the flowers for last. I'm gonna have a pop-up sale this week, so we should cut those at as cool part of a temperature as we can. This is our butternut squash that I was absolutely convinced was not gonna make it this year. But lo and behold, we have a squash. In fact, we have another one, and I know somewhere over here, I believe we have 2 more. There they are. 1, 2. These are very, very neglected tomatoes. When we were planting in the greenhouse, basically what happened is we had these leftover plants. We ran out of greenhouse space, and so we decided we would plant them out here, and whatever would live, would live. They did all right, but needless to say, these are not the size of our greenhouse tomatoes. Over here we have some late planted green beans. I don't know if they're going to do anything, but it was an experiment, so I guess we'll see. Most of our broccoli at this point has bolted. I should have caught this earlier, but I just really thought it wasn't gonna do anything with how hot it had been. Our cabbages, they did all right. We actually already harvested what we thought would make it, but this here one, I think this is a Savoy cabbage. We're gonna leave this. This can handle the cold, and we'll harvest it maybe in a month or so. One of the biggest surprises this year was the greens in the garden. We actually had half decent kale. Again, these purple varieties seem to reduce bolting. Over here we have some arugula. Now I like letting the arugula go to seed because I like using it in arrangements. These are purple beans, another late planting just to see if anything will come of it. We also have some bok choy. This is going to seed. I don't know, maybe I'll collect it, maybe I won't. But a lot of these leaves would, you know, they're a little bug eaten, but they would still be perfectly edible. We're not going to market with them or anything. I was so excited this year to get my very first artichoke. Look, there's even 2, and I already harvested another. The celery did pretty well here as well. I should have harvested it more. I think it just stayed at this really small size for most of the summer. And then once we got some rains, it started to grow. So I'll just know for next year, if it's just sitting, then it needs some water. Look at this squash. This is a blue Hubbard squash that I had saved from seed. And so to get a context of size, this is my hand. This is the squash. This thing is a monster. These squash really seem to like our soil over here. Here's another one, not nearly as big, but still really nice sized. Then over here we have one white burr squash, kind of flat, really cool looking. I was starting to think that I wouldn't get any sunflowers this year, but the sunflowers that we saved from seed last year, as a bicolor of some sort, are really starting to come. The amaranth was mostly cut for the weddings and is covered in weeds, but there's still some harvestable stems. More sunflowers, More amaranth. Actually, this is really a nice size right now with a nice little stem length. Definitely gonna harvest some of that. My cosmos took forever, and now they're finally here. We have some rudbeckia over there, more zinnias and status, all things I thought were not going to make it this year. My snaps are coming into like their full glory right now. They are so, so gorgeous. The dahlia patch has been really disappointing. Everything is just super late this year. I should have had so many blooms by now, and it's only now that we're really starting to get a ton of blooms. So hopefully I get to actually see these. Oh, here's a nice purple one that's gonna come. That gorgeous Arabian Night right there. And, oh, I see a white one. This one's actually pretty productive, but I don't know if I really like the leaf shape on it. So we'll see if I keep it or not. This is also why I start my glads. It's September, and they're really only just sort of coming into their own. I've got 2 there. I've picked a few. There's some more red ones coming. They're just really slow. My calendula is fantastic. This is a variety. It was 2 different varieties, and they've just like pollinated with each other, and now it's like Kristen's house variety is what I like to call it. They have nice long stems. They're really great come and cut again flower. So I definitely recommend planting calendula if you can. Thanks for joining me on this little garden tour. If you like more content like this, also live in a cold climate with a short growing season, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. I've got tons of flowers to pick for that flower sale, and I'm not going to bore you with that content. I've already done lots of videos of me picking flowers and doing sales. If you're interested in that, you can always check out the backyard business content. All right, friends, it's been a slice. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.